Welcome to a Friday afternoon. It is Friday night light high school football preview show here on The Ride, which is the A Train Sports Talk video podcast. We're going to get you ready for some high school football. And we're going to take a look at rankings and some games of interest that you might want to partake in tonight. Get out and support these young men because they work so hard to put a good product out there on the field. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to look at rankings. And what I also hope to do is something I've been wanting to do is take a look at also the KCAC, get you ready for them. Or I may table that until tomorrow. We're definitely going to go heavy on the high school scene throughout the state. And we're going to start, like I say, by looking at the rankings and how they stack up. The number one team, which should come as no surprise, in 6A, flying high on the outskirts of Wichita in the town of Maize, the Maize Eagles made a substantial jump as Maize outscored Derby 21-0 in the second half in defeating the Panthers 42-21. The Eagles grabbed a 14-0 lead on a TD pass from Braden Maivela to William Stanley and a rushing score from Damari Smith. Derby scored 21 consecutive points to grab a touchdown lead as Blade Clark threw touchdown passes to Rowan Foster and Devon Morris, sandwiched around Arias Finley scoring run. But Mays would answer to tie the game at halftime as Maivela rushed for a short score. The second half would belong to the Eagles as Maivela added two more rushing touchdowns and then hit Pierce George on a 10-yard scoring pass in the fourth quarter, which is why they have made the jump to number one in 6A. Their next game tonight will be at Hayesville campus, which is coming in with the 0-4 record. Number one team in Class 5A is St. Thomas Aquinas at 4-0. They won last week at Blue Valley Southwest by the score of 41-14. Top-ranked Aquinas rode to a 41-14 Eastern Kansas League win over Blue Valley Southwest. The Saints scored 20 points in the first quarter and led 34-0 at halftime. Carson Patrick threw a touchdown pass to Arthur Witherspoon to get the scoring started. Witherspoon then caught a touchdown pass from Luke Barnhart. The Saints then went to the ground game with touchdown runs from Tyler Bartell and Braden Conley. Aquinas will host rival Bishop Miege this week. Bishop Miege comes in with a 2-2 record and a number 2 ranking in 5A. In a wild game last week, that's the best way to describe this. The number one team in 4A, Cape and Mount Carmel, comes in with a 4-0 record. Won their game last week against number 2, Wichita Northwest, by the score of 43-42 in overtime. Cape and Mount Carmel got a 10-yard touchdown run and a 2-point conversion by Ken Huff in overtime to top Wichita Northwest 43-42. Cape fell behind Northwest 28-0 in the second quarter before scoring twice to stay in touch at halftime 28-14. The Crusaders then scored twice in the third quarter to pull even. Wichita Northwest scored right before the end of the third quarter to lead 35-28. But KMC tied the game again early in the fourth quarter. The Cape defense stuffed the Grizzlies on 4th and goal mid fourth quarter. The Grizzlies then had a chance to win the game as time expired, but a penalty and an errant snap gave them 4th and goal beyond the 30-yard line. The two teams went to OT tied at 35. Northwest got the ball first in overtime, and Jalen Mason hit Griffin Baker for their second touchdown connection of the night to lead 42-35. Capon answered with Huff in one play from 10 yards out. The Crusaders elected to go for the 2-point conversion and the win, and Huff powered into the end zone to end the game. Up next, in a game that I think will be a big game, you cannot overlook anybody. And all this team has done is won 3 straight games after opening the season, I do believe, with the loss. No, I think that's right. Either way, up next for Capon is a game I think that will test them. Wichita Southeast. You heard me correctly. Wichita Southeast. Now, I'm going to say this. I did look at the Class 6A rankings, and I didn't see Wichita Southeast mentioned with others receiving votes. So, in my opinion, and I don't have a say in this, but I think people are sleeping on Wichita Southeast. So, the question tonight is, will the Crusaders tame the Buffalo tonight? Or will the Stampede trample over the Crusaders? In my opinion, I don't think this game will be a blowout, because I think with every victory that Southeast picks up, it ramps up their confidence. And I'm pretty sure nobody sees Southeast pulling off the upset, but I'm pretty sure Southeast goes into this game confident, believing that they have a chance to win this game. So I'm not going to predict the Southeast upset, but I will say this. I believe Capon, when it's all said and done, regardless of who wins, who loses, Capon will know that they were in a ball game because a herd of Buffaloes came in. The number one team in Class 3A in a game that I was actually at last week is no surprise, Andale. Andale beat rival Wichita Collegiate by the score of 54-7. Indians forced 5 Spartan turnovers and overwhelmed Collegiate with this ground attack. Sam Harp rushed for 117 yards and a pair of touchdowns for the Indians. Drayton Dansel added 2 touchdown runs as well. Generally, Cheney and Collegiate have been Andale's closest competition in the regular season for the last decade. Collegiate remains the last team to defeat Andale at home back in 2012. Andale has won 12 straight in the series. Up next for Andale, they will be at 0-4 Nickerson. I also want to say this in regards to Andale. Their fans travel well. I want to say kudos to Andale's fan base. They say the school only has what, like 300 students, and 100 of them are out for football. The first thing I noticed was the size of their team when they came out to the field. I'm like, wow, they got a lot of bodies in uniforms. Then I looked up in the stands, and they had at least three-quarters of the visitor side filled up, and they were making noise. So kudos to Andale, not just the football program, but the community of Andale as well, for the support you show your team. You're to be applauded for that. Number one team in Class 2A, this is no surprise either. Southeast Upsilene, the defending 2A champs. Southeast Upsilene dominated Kingman by the score of 58-6 and bumped this winning streak to 16 games. The Trojans have outscored opponents 214 to 34. Kingman dropped to 0-4. Only a couple of years ago, Kingman beat Southeast Upsilene in an incredible state semifinal contest. This year, Southeast Upsilene led 28-0 after the first quarter and 50-0 at halftime. Senior Grady Gabhart had another huge game with 10 touches for 198 yards and 4 scores. When you break that down, that's pretty much 19.8 yards per carry. Next up for Kingman is Lions, who comes in with an 0-4 record. Number one team in Class 1A coming in with a 4-0 record is Jackson Heights. Their last outing, they beat McLeod by the score of 55-58. Jackson Heights rolled over McLeod 55-58 and has outscored opponents 199-14. Cobras have not lost a league game since 2022. Jackson Heights has won his last 3 league games by at least 47 points. Next up for them, they will be playing at Pleasant Ridge. Only thing is, how pleasant will it be? Pleasant Ridge comes in at 1-3. Now we take a look at 8-man Division One, and I want to say I had the opportunity to talk with Matthew Fowler, coach out there at Oswego, and I'm pretty sure this team is on his radar because they may face each other maybe somewhere in the playoffs. The South Central rolled over Kiowa County by the score of 58-0 and will get another bye this week. South Central led 22-0 after the first quarter in the game that ended at halftime. Junior Colt Yoder completed 7 of 7 passes for 138 yards for 2 scores. Junior Coda Lindsay had 10 carries for 189 yards and 5 TDs. South Central has outscored its opponents 194-6. So I can tell you right now, it's easy to get caught up in the offensive numbers. But look at what the defense has done. It's only allowed 6 points all year in 4 games. Up next for them will be Maxville at 0-4. And of course, the number one 8-man Division II team, this comes as no surprise. Axtell. Axtell extended its Kansas 8-man all-time win streak to 56 after a 54-8 win against Blue Valley. Axtell scored all 54 points in the first quarter. Yes. Let me say it again. Axtell scored all 54 points in the first quarter. Wyatt Detweiler tossed 5 touchdown passes. Joe Liebarger scored the game's first TD on a 15-yard rush. He tacked on a 3-yard score and a 26-yard pick six. Up next, Axtell will welcome in 0-4 Wakefield. And now, sixth man, number one ranked team at 3-1, Weskin. Weskin dominated Western Plains by the score 56-0 in the game played Thursday. Coyotes have three straight big wins against Kansas teams. Weskin enters the more challenging portion of its Kansas schedule with games versus Bird City Chelan, Golden Plains, and Northern Valley in the next 3 weeks. Up next, Chelan, the 1-3 record. Something would tell me though, if this is the challenging part of their schedule, Chelan coming in at 1-3 is a team that probably shouldn't be overlooked. So there you have a rundown of the number one teams in their respective classes. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a look at the 6A rankings. And we already gave you number one Derby, so we have the information on them. Coming in at number two, Wichita Northwest with a 3-1 record. Wichita Northwest dropped its first game of the season, 43-42 in overtime to 4A number one Cape and Mount Carmel. And let me just put a pin right there because some of you are saying a 6A school losing to a 4A school. However, 4A school plays in the same league as 6A school. Also, 4A school is coached by Western Sharks. So don't blink at that. Don't even look at the classification. It's just the fact that Capon plays in the same league. Capon could play 4A, 5A, 6A. Bottom line. They've always been a perennial 5A school. Moving right along, though, the Grizzlies shocked Capon by taking a 28-0 lead in the second quarter. However, Capon rallied to within 28-14 at halftime and scored twice in the third quarter to pull even. Wichita Northwest scored right before the end of the third quarter to lead 35-28. KMC tied the game again early in the fourth quarter. Capon stuffed Grizzlies on fourth and goal mid-fourth quarter. The Grizzlies then had a chance to win the game late, but a penalty and an errant snap gave them a fourth goal beyond the 30-yard line. Northwest got the ball first in overtime, and Jalen Mason hit Griffin Baker for a second touchdown pass of the night to lead 42-35. Capon scored in one play on Ken Huff's 10-yard run. Crusaders elected to go for two-point conversion and the win, and Huff powered into the end zone to end the game. Mason passed for 191 yards, two scores, to Baker, who caught six passes for 111 yards. John Michael Fountain rushed for 132 yards and two touchdowns, while Augie Fast added 84 yards and two scores. Both backs left the game with injuries. Mason added 97 rush yards on 20 attempts. So they still got that firepower. Up next for Wichita Northwest is Wichita West, who comes in at 1-3. A team that's still rising. Number 3, Junction City, coming in at 3-1. Beat who? They beat Manhattan. Junction City upset their rival, Manhattan, in the annual Silver Trophy game. The Blue Jays forced 6 turnovers in handing the top-ranked Indians a 28-14 defeat. And let me add, not only did they defeat them 24-18, but they beat them on their home field. After falling behind 7-0, Junction City tied the game on a Lance Norris touchdown run, then took the lead on a Conrad Gomez TD pass to Lavelle Autry. Manhattan tied the game in the third quarter. Gomez then hit Autry on a 76-yard touchdown bomb to regain the lead. After an interception, Gomez rushed for a short touchdown to put the Blue Jays up 28-14. Junction City will travel to 5A, number 3 Hayes this week. So I'm pretty sure Hayes will be looking forward to welcoming in Junction City in what would probably go down as a classic game. The number 14, Manhattan, 3-1. Lost 28-14 to their rival Junction City. Manhattan couldn't overcome 6 turnovers in losing to rival Junction City 28-14 in the Silver Trophy game. Indians took a first quarter lead on a McLean Aslan touchdown run before allowing Junction City to score twice to lead 14-7 at halftime. Indians tied the game in the third quarter on a 14-yard run by E.J. Massenberg, but Junction City answered right back with a long touchdown pass and eventually tacked on another score. Manhattan will look to rebound with a trip to Emporia this week, who comes in at 2-2. And the number 5 team, Gardner Edgerton, at 3-2, blasted Olathe North by the score of 42-7. Gardner Edgerton dominated a showdown with Olathe North 42-7 behind a big night from senior back Sire Padilla. Padilla rushed for more than 280 yards and 4 touchdowns as the Trailblazers improved to 3-1 on the season. Padilla broke a 92-yard touchdown run on the Blazers' first play to put them on top for good. Gardner Edgerton extended it to 28-0 at halftime as Padilla had 3 scores. The Blazers will take on Olathe West this week, who also comes in at 3-1. Can you believe it? Derby is actually not in the top 5. So here are the teams that are considered. Blue Valley Northwest at 2-2, Derby at 2-2, Lawrence Free State 3-1, Olathe North 2-1, Olathe Northwest 3-1, Olathe West 3-1, Shawnee Mission East 3-1, Shawnee Mission Northwest 2-2, Washburn Rural 3-1. So there's your 6A outlook. Now we're going to move to 5A. Take a look at 5A. Number 1 ranked team in 5A. St. Thomas Aquinas. Coming in at 4-0. Rolled to a 41-14 Eastern Kansas League win over Blue Valley Southwest. The Saints scored 20 points in the first quarter and led 34-0 at halftime. Carson Patrick threw a touchdown pass to Arthur Witherspoon to get the scoring started. Witherspoon then caught a touchdown pass from Luke Barnhart. The Saints then went on to the ground game with touchdown runs from Tyler Bartell and Braden Conley. Aquinas will host rival Bishop Miege this week. Number 2 team, Great Bend at 4-0. Cruised past Wichita North by the score of 75-8. Great Bend scored 41 points in the first quarter in overwhelming the overmatched Wichita North Redhawks, 75-8. Panthers led 61-8 at halftime. Daxton Minton completed 8 of 9 passes for 123 yards, 4 touchdowns. Josh Burney and Jaden Prilling each threw touchdown passes. Ian Primer caught a pair of touchdown passes, while Cooper Anmott, Jacob Hall, Alec Primer, and Carter Drawling each caught touchdown passes. Minton, Hayden, Kelly, and Trenton Kern added a rushing score for Great Bend, who will next host Dodge City, who comes in at 2-2. Hayes coming in at number 3, cruised to a 48-20 win over Garden City in the first homecoming game in the Indians' new stadium. Indians scored 35 points in the first quarter in taking control. Zane Viagra connected with Jarrett Purdy, wonder if there's any relation to Brock Purdy, just asking, on two first half touchdown passes. Braxton Vasco rushed for three touchdowns on the night. Viagra and Holden Lynn each added rushing scores. And of course, you know their big game coming up tonight against number three Junction City in 6A. Number four, Mill Valley coming in at 3-1, number four team in 5A. Beat Lawrence by the score of 42-21. Mill Valley led 28-14 at halftime and cruised to a 42-41 win over Lawrence. The Jaguars rushed 365 yards on the night, led by Max Peeves, 237 yards and three touchdowns on 29 attempts. Blake Jay added 78 yards and two scores on 12 carries. Jay also passed for 56 yards on the night. The Jaguar defense was tested as Lawrence Joey Dooley and Taj Edwards combined to rush for more than 250 yards on the night. Mill Valley has a big test this week against run heavy Shawnee Mission Northwest, who comes in at 2-2. The number five team, St. James Academy at 3-1, edged Blue Valley by the score of 32-29. St. James Academy picked up a second consecutive win by holding off Blue Valley 32-29. With the game tied at 22, Braden Stoker connected on a 37-yard field goal to put the Thunder up 25-22. St. James then added a touchdown for a 37-22 lead before the Tigers added a touchdown. Senior back Jake House rushed for 204 yards and a touchdown on 22 carries to lead the Thunder. John Hornback and Will Busser added rushing scores for St. James. Hornback also passed for 133 yards, including a touchdown pass to Alex Jett. Jett had 5 receptions for 106 yards on the night. Up next, they will hit the road. St. James is going to the great state of Missouri to take on St. Pius X. Other teams being considered: Baser Linwood at 4-0, DeSoto at 3-1, Hutchinson at 3-1, Kansas City, Washington 4-0, Liberal, I believe, yes, 4-0, Maize South 3-1, Salina Central 4-0, Spring Hill 3-1. And that is a look at your 5A top 5 teams. Also want to say that these listings here are courtesy of K-Prep's website that I'm on. One thing I've always been taught is to give credit where credit is due. So I want to thank staff out there at K-Preps. If you are listening, watching, whatever the case may be, thank you for all this valuable information. Now, what we're going to do, we are going to turn our attention to 4A. We're going to take a look at 4A, and I'm going to try to get through this whole list. All right. And it is no surprise that the number one team in 4A is Cape Mount Carmel, and we've already hashed out the fact that they were in a wild one last week. I believe that it was just one of those games that even though you had your seat, you were sitting on the edge. So we know Capeland is number one in 4A. So we're going to get on down to the rest of the list. As number two, Bishop Miege coming in at 2-2. They lost to Missouri class number five, Missouri class five, number two, Rockhurst. Bishop Miege fell 35-0 to Missouri class five, number two ranked Rockhurst. The Hawklets led 14-0 after the first quarter before breaking the game open with three touchdowns in the third quarter. Miege has been shut out in both losses this season to St. James Academy and Rockhurst. Prior to this season, Bishop Miege hadn't been shut out since a 2007 playoff loss to Blue Valley West. They will try to get back on track as they will be at 5A, number one ranked St. Thomas Aquinas, who comes in at 4-0. The number three team, 4A, Buhler at 3-1, beat Towanda Circle by the score 42-20. Buhler raced past Towanda Circle behind a monster night from running back Ben Klaus. Klaus rushed for a school record 379 yards. Some running backs don't get that much in a season. He did it in one game, 379 yards. See, this is going to make me do my homework because now I want to find some trivia. The most yards by a running back in a single game. Once again, Klaus rushed for a school record, 379 yards, and scored three touchdowns for the Crusaders. Buhler rushed for more than 430 yards on the night. Yeah, I can see how, because he got 379 of them himself. Max Harmony rushed for a score and caught a touchdown pass from Asher Zachary. Buhler will travel to Wamego for a Week 5 showdown with the Red Raiders. The teams split a pair of meetings last fall, with Wamego winning 29-16 at Buhler during the regular season, and the Crusaders winning 28-14 at Wamego in the quarterfinal round of the 4A playoffs. So I expect nothing less than a good, hard fought game between these two. Number four, Eudora at 3-1, beat then 4A number three Ottawa 35-21. Eudora jumps into the poll after a third consecutive victory since their season opening loss to 3A number two Topeka Hayden. The Cardinals scored twice in the second half on Friday to top then number three Ottawa 35-21. The game was tied 21-21 at halftime. Eudora added a Grayson Moody rushing score early in the third quarter to take a 28-21 lead. That lead held until about a minute left in the game, when the Cardinals iced the game with a Houston Carnegie touchdown. Next up for Eudora, they will be traveling to Lewisburg, who comes in at 1-3. And of course, the number five team at 3-1 is Ottawa, and we know how that turned out. Up next for Ottawa, they will be at 3-1 Spring Hill. Other teams that are considered receiving votes: 3-1 Andover Central. Chanute coming in at 2-2. Labette County at 3-1. McPherson 3-1. Mulvane 3-1. Tonganoxie 3-1, and Wellington 3-1. So it would appear that 4A is shaping up to be a very competitive class as well. Now we're going to take a look at 3A. And it is no surprise, and we already gave you the rundown on the number one team in 3A, which is Andale. We know that they won last week, 54-7. And I'm just going to tell you like this: those of you who are into high school sports, high school football, and I know there are the large classifications, and we know that Keisha, they're reclassifying teams. But I'm telling you right now, those of you who get a chance to see this and or listen to the podcast later on, some of you who are listening will probably agree with me, but I'm gonna say it like this: regardless of the size of their school and their enrollment size, because that's how these classifications are done, it's based on school enrollment size. And I've heard some people on talk radio, they say it should be more about competition than about the size of the enrollment. I see no reason why Andale shouldn't be playing 4A, maybe stretch into 5A. They just have a certain mentality. They are built differently. And I'm like this: if you don't move them up to 4A or 5A, I would like to see some of these 5A and 4A schools and maybe some 6A schools put Andale on their schedule. I'm pretty sure Andale would rise to the challenge. And I'm pretty sure some of these schools in these larger classifications, they will know that if they don't get beat by Andale, they will know that they were in a fight with Andale. I've never seen a team the likes of Andale that don't run a traditional, and I have to reference it like this, that don't run a traditional hurry up offense, yet their offense is a hurry up offense. Now, I know someone listening probably saying, make that make sense. I'm going to do just that. I seen them against Collegiate last week, and they huddle up. They go to the huddle. They don't just come to the line after each play. They come to the huddle. But what's so unique about it is the defense has to be ready because when they break the huddle, they run to the line or call it sprint, whatever. They get to the line of scrimmage expeditiously. And I can promise you, within a second, if not half second, within the second, I believe the snap count is one. They're not trying to draw you off sides. They sprint to the line. Ball is in quarterback's hand. And you know it's a run play. And can't nobody stop it. So that's the number one team in Andale. That's my spiel on Andale. So the number two team in 3A, Topeka Hayden. They beat then number four. They beat then 4A number five Wamego 42-6. Topeka Hayden rolled over Wamego 42-6. Quarterback Connor Hanukkah passed for 230 yards and threw three touchdown passes for the Wildcats. Hanukkah threw touchdown passes to Jackson McGivern and Alexander Blessing before adding a rushing score. Hanukkah later hit Logan Power on a touchdown pass. Cade Mitchell rushed for a touchdown for the Wildcats. Wamego beat Hayden 31-28 last year. Hayden moved to 9-1 in the last 10 games in the series. Up next for Topeka Hayden is a trip to Hiawatha, who comes in at 1-3. The number three team, also coming in at 4-0, Holcomb, who went on the road to Goodland and held off Goodland by the score of 31-14 and moved to 4-0 for the first time since 2022. The Longhorns scored 21 points in the first quarter and held off the Cowboys. Cooper Cranston rushed 14 times for 234 yards and 3 touchdowns on the night. Holcomb has won 14 straight versus Goodland since 2010. Up next, they welcome in 1-3 Colby. Number 14, Rock Creek coming in at 4-0, doubled up Abilene by the score of 28-14. Rock Creek defeated Abilene 28-14 and moved to 4-0. Gavin Rosa scored, passed for 134 yards and a pair of touchdowns. Rosa overcame 3 interceptions on the night to throw scoring passes to Luke Skinner and Luke Smith. A room full of Lukes there. Zion Bell led the Mustang ground attack with 248 yards and 2 touchdowns on 42 carries. Workhorse. Bell cow. Rock Creek has allowed just 27 points in 4 games. Last year, Rock Creek opened 3-1 and allowed 13 points in the first month. Up next, based on record, look like Rock Creek will have an interesting game as they travel to 3-1 Clay City. Number 5, coming in at 3-0, Scott City beat Ulysses 44-7. Scott City had its first complete game in 2 weeks after weather shortened its Week 3 contest against Hoisington. This week, Scott City defeated Ulysses 44-7. Caden Couchman rushed for a touchdown and caught a touchdown pass as the Beavers built a 17-7 lead at halftime. Quarterback Drew Metzger, and that last name sounds familiar, threw his second touchdown pass, this one to Peyton Bergner, to extend the lead to 24-7. Scott City would later add 3 scores in the fourth quarter to pull away. Scott City has won 10 straight versus Ulysses. Last year, Scott City earned a 57-8 victory. Next up, and what should be an interesting game, they will be at 4-0 Hugoton. Other teams being considered: 3-1 Baldwin, 3-1 Cheney, Clay Center at 3-1, Frontenac 3-1, Heston 3-1, Houghton 3-1, Hugoton 4-0, Jefferson West 3-1, Prairie View 3-1, Pratt 3-1, and Santa Fe Trail 4-0. And we're getting on down through here. We're getting on down through here because up next is 2A. And the number 1 team in 2A is no surprise, Southeast Upsilane, and we have already given you the information on them. We know that they were going to be traveling to Lyons, Kansas, to take on 0-4 Lions, which now leads to our number 2 team, which is Nemaha Central, coming in at 4-0. They beat Chanute last week 28-14. Nemaha Central beat Class 4A Chanute 28-14 and continued their strong resume. The Thunder have outscored opponents 174-49. His last 3 opponents are a combined 7-2 when not playing the Thunder. Nemaha Central has beaten opponents in 3A, 2A, 1A, and 4A. That's what I'm talking about. They're not afraid to take on different classifications, which is why I would like to see some of these larger class schools play teams like a Cheney. I'm pretty sure Dylan Schmidt wouldn't mind the challenge himself. And I'm pretty sure he would have the confidence that his team could win those games. So, Keisha, I don't know who's in charge of scheduling, but let's see in the future if we can make that happen. Number 3 team, oh, just in case I didn't say, Nemaha Central will be taking on 2-2 Oskaloosa. The number 3 team now, coming in at 4-0, shut out West Franklin by the score of 74-0. Osage City dominated West Franklin 74-0 and has outscored opponents 223-47. The Indians scored 42 points in the first quarter in rolling past the Falcons. Kason Parsons completed 6 of 7 passes, 4 of which went for touchdowns. He also added a rushing score. Quentin Stark and Tate Smith each hauled in 2 touchdown receptions. Osage City is 4-0 for the third straight year. Up next for them, they will be traveling to the beautiful town of Council Grove to take on Council Grove, who comes in at 4-0. Coming in at number 4 with the 3-0 record, Hoisington shut out Southwestern Heights 72-0. Hoisington played its first complete game in 2 weeks after its week 3 contest against Scott City was deemed a no contest and wasn't finished because of weather. Hoisington rolled over Southwestern Heights 72-0. Cardinals moved to 5-0 against Southwestern Heights in the last 5 years, with all wins by at least 47 points. Up next, Hoisington will be at Cheney. That game is tonight. I'm pretty sure the tailgaters are already out. Cheney is just one of those places where the community rally around their sports teams. So look forward to a good game out there. Number 5 team, Garden Plain, coming in at 3-1, knocked off Belle Plaine 46-7. Garden Plain rolled over Belle Plaine 46-7. The Owls scored 40 points in the first half in Friday's win. Eli Eck threw a pair of touchdown passes, and Emmerich Hayes rushed for 170 yards to lead the Owls. Garden Plain rushed for 370 yards on the night. Garden Plain is 17-0 against Belle Plaine since 2004. Up next, a game that should probably be a Donnybrook hard fought contest. They travel to 4-0 Haven. Teams being considered: Council Grove 4-0, Ellsworth 4-0, Haven 4-0, Russell 4-0, Sabetha 4-0. And that list looked even shorter than the other classifications. But that class also looks to be very competitive. So it will be very interesting to see who comes out ahead in Class 2A. Now we turn our attention to 1A. Taking a look at 1A, we know that Jackson Heights is the number 1 ranked team in 1A, so we've given you the information on them. So we're going to go right on in to number 2 team, Sterling, who was last game, they knocked off Ellenwood by the score of 43-8. Sterling rolled over Ellenwood 43-8 in a battle of undefeated teams. Sterling is 4-0 for the first time since an 8-1 season in 1998 per Kansas football history. The Black Bears have outscored teams 177-76. Last year, Sterling opened 2-2 and had 82 points in the first 4 contests. You see the improvements right there? Sterling lost to Sedgwick and Mountain Ridge before a 21-20 victory versus Inman and a 41-35 against Ellenwood. Up next, Medicine Lodge coming in at 2-2. The number 3 team, Rossville, coming in at 3-1, rolled over Maranatha Christian Academy by the score of 69-0. The Bulldogs' senior quarterback, Kanan Mitchell, completed 4 of 5 passes for 155 yards and 4 scores. Rossville collectively rushed 21 times for 250 yards and 5 TDs. Up next, they will be taking on 3-1 Mission Valley. Number 14, St. Mary's Colgan coming in at 4-0. St. Mary's Colgan dominated Pleasanton by the score of 63-7. The Panthers scored 49 points in the first half behind 5 touchdowns from Clayton Adamson. Brady Betega, hope I pronounced that right, rushed for a touchdown and returned an interception for another score. Will Shimmer and freshman Matthias Wilbert each added rushing touchdowns. Colgan moved to 9-0 against Pleasanton since 2006. The Panthers have won all those games but won by at least 29 points. Up next for them will be Uniontown. And the number 5 team coming in at 4-0, Smith Center at 4-0, beat Plainville 34-16. Smith Center beat Plainville 34-16, moved to 4-0, and set up a huge home matchup at Hubbard Stadium against Thomas More Prep Marion this week. Last year, Smith Center opened 0-4 and then beat Thomas More Prep 20-14 in overtime. Smith Center is 9-0 all time against TMP. The Monarchs are 2-1 this season. The game will have major Mid-Continent League and District 8 ramifications. Thomas More Prep comes in at 2-1. Other teams being considered: Centralia 3-1, Hutch Trinity 3-1, Inman 3-1, Jefferson County North 4-0, Marion 4-0, Mission Valley 3-1, Mountain Ridge 3-1, Opie 3-1, Republic County 3-1, Riverside 3-1, Thomas More Prep 2-1, and Troy 3-1. And that right there wraps up 1A. Not trying to leave anyone out, we're going to take a look at 8-man Division 1. Coming in number 1 there, which we already have given you the information on them. South Central, up next for them, they will take on 0-4 Maxville. So number 2, and I've heard a lot about these teams thanks to my good friend out there in Oswego, Coach Matt Fowler. Little River, the number 2 team, 8-man Division 1, rolled over Gossel by the score of 52-6. The Redskins ranked second in the classification with 234 points and are fifth with just 36 points allowed. Little River scored 30 points in the first quarter against Gossel in a game that ended at halftime. Little River finished with 11 rushes for 257 yards and 7 scores. Up next for them, they take on Canton Galva at 2-2. The number 3 team, Waukene Trago, 4-0, defeated Leoti Wichita County by the score of 56-46. That's a shootout. Waukene Trago is ranked for the first time since week 7 of 2021, per the Sunflower Sports Solutions poll archive. That year, Trago had a big week 2 against Wichita County and spent 5 weeks ranked number 4 or number 5. The Golden Eagles eventually went 8-2. On Friday, Trago came back in the second half and won his high-profile game 56-46 against then number 2 Leoti Wichita County. This is the highest ranking for the Golden Eagles in at least a decade. Trago opened last year 0-4 and is 4-0 this season with Coach Pat Haxton. The Golden Eagles roster composition includes key players in all 4 classes. Senior Ashton Wynn had a huge 37-yard pick that gave Trago the lead in the third quarter. Wichita County led 34-22 at halftime. Wynn passed for 94 yards and rushed for 101 with 2 scores. Junior Jack Connis had a huge game, notably in the fourth quarter with 21 carries for 142 yards and 4 scores. Wichita County standout senior quarterback Caston Young cleared 300 rushing yards. Wow. Trago seniors Aaron Sampson and Cass Smith were key on both sides of the ball. Number 14, Central Plains at 3-1, won at Solomon by the score of 54-6. Central Plains defeated Solomon 54-6. Central Plains has outscored teams 144-48. Oilers had back-to-back close games in week 2 and 3. First, Central Plains lost in the final seconds 22-20 at home versus Victoria and won at La Crosse 24-20 last week. Central Plains moved to 8-0 against Solomon. Up next for them is 1-3 Gossel. And the number 5 team coming in at 3-0 is Linden, who beat Chase County 68-18. Linden won the Flint Hills League 68-18 against Chase County. Those are the only two Flint Hill League teams that play 8-man football. Linden led 32-18 after the first quarter and 40-18 at halftime. Linden, like Trago, was a K-Prep's breakout team this summer. The Tigers have outscored teams 174-62 and flipped 2 results from last year. Linden fell 40-36 to Chase County in 24. Last fall, Linden allowed 118 points in the first month and scored 114. Up next for them, they will be at Flint Hills. Other teams receiving consideration: Atwood Rawlins County at 2-2, El Saline at 3-1, Hill City at 3-1, Hoxie at 2-2, Kinsley 3-0, Leoti Wichita County 2-2, Lincoln 4-0, Madison 4-0, Oswego, and they have a very compelling story within their team about a couple of young men, the Williamson brothers, and I believe it's Deontay, rushing for 157 yards a game. I hope I got the right one. But Oswego coming in at 3-1. Oxford 3-0. Pratt Skyline 4-0. Sylvan Lucas Unified at 4-0. And that is 8-man Division 1. Now we turn our attention to 8-man Division 2. And we already know about Axtell coming in at 4-0, and they will be taking on Wakefield, which is 0-4. So we move to our number 2 team, which is Victoria, coming in at 3-0. They blanked Pretty Prairie by the score of 54-0. Victoria rolled over Pretty Prairie 54-0 in a game that ended at halftime. The Knights officially earned a forfeit win versus Osborne in week 3 once the Bulldogs elected not to play with the weather conditions. Victoria has permitted 20 total points this season. The Knights will be significantly favored in the next 3 weeks before the likely district title against Hodgman County. Up next at 1-3 St. John. Number 3 team, Hanover, easily disposed of Frankfort at by the score of 50-0. Hanover rolled over rival Frankfort 50-0 and continues to look incredibly dominant. The Wildcats were significantly favored, will be significantly favored in the next 2 weeks before the highly anticipated contest at home versus Axtell. Man, that's one of those games I wish I could be at. Hanover shut out Frankfort for the first time since 2018, a stretch of 10 games. Hanover defeated Frankfort 28-22 last year. Up next for them is Blue Valley Randolph at 1-3. Number 4 team, Hodgman County at 4-0, beat St. John's 52-6. Hodgman County rolled over St. John 52-6 and is off to its best start since 2018. Longhorns have dealt with some injuries, though continue to roll. Hodgman County led 6-0 after the first quarter and 30-6 at halftime. Junior Ian Reese delivered 16 carries for 95 yards and two scores. He completed 4 of 6 passes for 29 yards. Up next, they will be at 2-2 Stratford and the number 5 team, Hutchinson South Hutchinson Central Christian at 4-0. Shut out Fairfield 50-0. Hutchinson Central Christian is 4-0 and off to its best start since 2017. Central Christian has outscored teams 180 to 22. Wow. Central Christian, generally known for passing, has switched to a running team this season. The Cougars have ran on 79% of snaps with 311 rushing yards per game and 11.1 yards per carry. Up next for them will be St. Paul coming in. And teams that are being considered will be Argonia Attica at 3-1, Burlingame at 3-1, Frankfurt at 1-3, Lebo 3-1, Marmot Valley 3-1, Rural Vista 3-1, Sharon Springs Wallace, is that Colorado? Not sure, but I believe it is at 4-0. And we are going to close out. So no, we will not get to our KCAC. We will do that tomorrow morning. We're going to close out with 6 man. And of course, Weston comes in ranked number 1, and we know their game will be against Chelan tonight, which leads us to the number 2 team coming in at 3-1. Cunningham lost an 8-man exhibition game, 42-40 in overtime to Mineola. Cunningham lost 42-40 in overtime to 8-man Mineola. The Wildcats will move back to 8-man next year. Only 6-man squad to go back up. The Wildcats had no change in their 6-man making after a rare 4-quarter contest. Up next for them is Otis Bison at 2-1. That's right. We're giving you everything from 6-man to from 6A to 6-man. Number 3, Ingles at 4-0 beat number 4 Tescott 30-25. Ingles and Tescott had their opponents forfeit, so they decided to play each other. Ingles won 30-25. Ingles and Tescott are 182 miles apart and had never previously played each other. Ingles will gain a 21-point district victory as a result of the forfeit by its initial opponent, Rolla. Up next, 1-3 at Moscow. Number 4, Tescott at 3-1. They lost to Ingles 30-25. Of course, we just read you that information. So we can move on to number 5, which is South Barbara at 3-1. They beat Moscow 48-0. South Barbara rolled over Moscow 48-0 and won its third straight contest after the 66-18 loss to Cunningham in week 1. South Barbara led 28-0 after the first quarter and 20-0 at halftime. Sheftians will be significantly favored at Chitopa on Friday before the key road game versus Ingles. Once again, up next, Chitopa at 2-2 for South Barbara. Others being considered will be Golden Plains at 2-2, Boris Des Singers Valley, hope I pronounced that right, at 3-1, Otis Bison 2-2, Pawnee Heights coming in also at 2-2, Peabody Burns 2-2. So there you have a look at classifications, the rankings, games that will be played. Like I said, get out, support these young men. as I too look forward to getting out, checking out some games myself as well. That is going to do it for this high school preview show on the A Train Sports Talk video live stream. Until the next time, make sure you keep your tickets because they are reusable. And I look forward to taking you on the next ride. It's Football Friday. It's time for me to get out of here. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy some food, family, and some good football. I'm out.